Hello children, I welcome you all to the sixth session of the life process of biology. So before I begin today's topic, I would like to have a quick recap of the previous class content. Okay, so in the previous class we have done the types of respiration, aerobic and anaerobic. We have discussed the details of the end products formed in the both the type of respiration. Then we had also started with the human respiratory system. Something is also left and some kind of revision of the human respiratory system functions. I will like to start the human respiratory system or to continue with the human respiratory system once again. This is the human respiratory system. We discussed that the air breath in through the nasal cavity, then it goes to the pharynx, then larynx, and then to the trachea, then to the bronchus, then to the bronchioles, and finally alveoli sac absorbs the oxygen. So then we have discussed that whenever we breathe in, the mechanism of breathing we did, in that mechanism we discussed that whenever we breathe in that case, the diaphragm goes down, ribs goes up, and the alveoli sac also expands so that maximum amount of oxygen can be absorbed. Okay. In this process, the intake of oxygen is done and it is passed to the cells through the blood, okay, and the carbon dioxide is expelled out. But during this in and out of the gases, what happens, the some amount of residual oxygen remains in the lungs, so that it should not take so that till the oxygen reaches to the cell and the carbon dioxide is released, some amount of oxygen is remained in the lungs. That is called as residual amount of oxygen in the lungs. Okay, it's not completely blown out. Some part of oxygen remains in the lungs for the proper absorption of oxygen and the expulsion of the carbon dioxide. Okay, this you understood. Now I would like to tell you something very important which is related to the oxygen absorption. Since a human being is a complex structure, it has huge body surface. So just by diffusion process, the oxygen cannot reach to the each and every cell and the carbon dioxide cannot be expelled out through the from the cell to outside environment. So to facilitate the proper absorption and reaching of the oxygen to the body cells, there is one respiratory pigment present in our body. What is that respiratory pigment? That is hemoglobin. What is it? Hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is present in the red blood cells. This we have discussed in the last year's class. Okay. So what happens? This hemoglobin is a red color pigment which is an iron containing pigment, and what it does, it is an oxygen lover. So what happens, whenever the lungs passes the oxygen to the alveoli sac, in the blood the hemoglobin is present. It attracts the oxygen or absorbs it and gradually it takes to the different body cells. And when it reaches to the different body cells, there the carbon dioxide is ready to expel out. And same hemoglobin brings the carbon dioxide outside the environment through the nasal cavity. Okay, so it's simply diffusion process. Maybe the diffusion is seen in the lower animals but not in the human beings. So what is important? The red blood cell containing the hemoglobin pigment, sorry, and that hemoglobin has a function to absorb the oxygen and carry it to the body cells, as well as it also carries the carbon dioxide from the cell and passes to the lungs to expel out of the body system. Okay, now we go to the respiration of the different animals also. So first we will do about the fish, respiration in fish. Okay, you all know that fish is an aquatic animal. So definitely it will not have lungs to breathe in. It has gills. Where is the location of the gills in the fish? Where is the location of the gills in the fish? It is just behind the eye on the sides, both the sides. There are gill slits present and where the gills are located. Now, one more thing you should know, that the gills are covered with the gill cover that is called as operculum. It is this number. This is the word operculum. So what happens? Some amount of oxygen is dissolved in the water. So the fishes get the oxygen which is dissolved in the water. So how it gets? There is a mechanism. When the fish opens the mouth, that time the gill cover is closed. It does not move. It gets closed. So the water which is containing the oxygen enters the fish body. That water is passed over the gills. When this gill slit will be just open, it's like a flap. It opens, so though the water is passed from the mouth to the gills. The gills are made up of very thin filaments, that is our capillary, the blood capillaries, and that absorbs the dissolved oxygen from the water. Once the gills absorbs the water, the blood vessels absorbs the oxygen, the carbon dioxide immediately sends to the water, is sent to the water. Now remember, the mechanism is water is passed from the mouth inside and the dissolved oxygen is taken by the or absorbed by the gills. Where in the gills? The blood capillaries of the gills absorbs the oxygen, and that oxygen is passed to the heart of the fish to pump it to the different body parts. At the same time, the carbon dioxide returns to the gills and the water takes out the carbon dioxide from the gill. Entry of the water is through the mouth, but the exit of the carbon dioxide is through the gills. Understood this? Just I'm reading whatever is given in this picture. The fish has gills on both the sides of its head. The fish live in water and this water contains dissolved oxygen. The fish breathes by taking in water through its mouth and sending it over the gills. As water passes over the gill filaments, blood inside the capillary network picks up the dissolved oxygen. The circulatory system. The circulatory system means the heart and the blood vessels. These transports the oxygen to all the body tissues and ultimately to the cells, and at the same time pick up carbon dioxide which is removed from the body through the gills. After the water flows through the gills, it exits the body of the fish through the opening in the side of the throat or through the operculum, a flap usually found in bony fish which covers and protects the gills. Some fish like sharks, lampreys possess multiple gills opening, but bony fish like rohu have single opening, one this side and one that side. Okay. Now here there is a question. The breathing rate of aquatic animals is more as compared to the terrestrial land animals. They breathe faster. Why? Because you will see that whenever if you have observed the fish in the aquarium, you see that they very fastly, the rate of opening their mouth is very fast. Why? Because the amount of oxygen which is present in the water, which is dissolved in the water, is much lower as compared to the oxygen present in the environment. So the land animals take enough, there is present for them, oxygen is enoughly present in the environment. So what do? They breathe the amount of oxygen very easily as much they need. But in the case of the fish, since the dissolved oxygen is less in the water, so what happens? They need to open the mouth again and again and take the spurt of the oxygen from the water. Next is some other animals and their respiratory organs. Unicellular like amoeba, they respire through the cell membrane. Earthworm through the skin. Aquatic animals like fish, prawns, gills. Insects like grasshopper and cockroach, spiracles and trachea. Land animals like humans, birds, terrestrial animals, they have lungs. But there is something which is common in all. This is whether they have different organs, but some their features are common. What are they? First, all the respiratory all the respiratory organs have a large surface area to get the oxygen. What is the meaning of large surface area? Large surface means if they are breathing through the cell membrane, or they are breathing through the trachea, breathing to the lungs, they there is large area so that amount of oxygen can be easily absorbed through any of the respiratory organs. All the respiratory organs have thin walls for easy diffusion. You know the diffusion process, from the movement of the gaseous particles from its higher concentration area to lower concentration area. So outside the environment there is more concentration of oxygen. Inside the body there is less concentration of oxygen. So which side the movement of the oxygen will be? From outside to inside. So if the walls are thin, then only the diffusion is easily carried on. And the exchange of respiratory gases. So first is the organs have large surface area to get enough oxygen. Second one, the organs have thin walls for easy diffusion and exchange. Third point, all respiratory organs like skin, gills and lungs have a rich blood supply, because anyhow the oxygen has to be transported to the cells. And what is that? We will go to the next life process, that is transportation, because blood is the only medium through which the things can be passed to the different body parts from a system easily. Okay. Now the topic which I wanted to, which I have already explained, about the difference between the breathing rate of terrestrial and aquatic animals. Terrestrial animals can breathe oxygen in the atmosphere, but the water animals need to use the oxygen dissolved in the water. Since the amount of dissolved oxygen is fairly low as compared to the amount of oxygen in the air, so the rate of breathing in the aquatic organisms is faster as compared to the terrestrial animals. Here you can write a question, why, and it is there in your book also, why the breathing rate of aquatic animals is more as compared to the terrestrial animals. So this can be the answer for that. Next topic we will go for is the respiration in the plants. You all are aware that plants also respire and plants also do photosynthesis. So plants do two processes at the same time. If you see this picture, when they are breathing in, when they are just breathing or respiring, they take in oxygen and they release the carbon dioxide. Whether it is leaf part, root part, all the part needs to breathe oxygen and expel carbon dioxide. But on the same time, they do photosynthesis during the day. Okay. So in that case, which gas they need for the photosynthesis? They need carbon dioxide to go in and oxygen to come out. So which gas will be released in the maximum amount, that depends on two factors. One is the environmental condition and the second one is the plant requirement. These are the two factors. First one, during the daytime, when the sun is there, so what will happen? The plant is doing both the process, photosynthesis and respiration. Okay. So during the respiration process in the daytime, the plant is taking in the oxygen and releasing the carbon dioxide. Okay. But the amount of carbon dioxide it is releasing, all that is consumed by the plant back for the process of photosynthesis. So what happens? Only the oxygen is released out in the daytime. Okay, why? Because the carbon dioxide which is produced by the breathing is used up by the photosynthesis. So what is released by the photosynthesis is the oxygen. So during the daytime, CO2 is generated during the respiration, but that is used up. So net release will be more of oxygen. In the night time, there is no photosynthesis because there is no sunlight. So what happens? Only the plant is doing the breathing. In that case, what is happening? In that case, it is happening that only the net release is seen. More is released is the CO2. So daytime, what is released? Oxygen. In the nighttime, what is released? CO2. Requirement. Second factor is requirement. Plant need more CO2 as compared to O2 in the daytime. You know that why? Because for the photosynthesis. So the amount of carbon dioxide released is generally negligible. So more amount of oxygen is released in the daytime. And at the night time, when the plant is not doing the photosynthesis, they need more oxygen for breathing. So what is released in maximum amount in the night? CO2. So plant breathing depends on two factors. First is the environmental condition. Second one is the plant requirement. In both the case, you will see that in the daytime, release of oxygen is more. In the nighttime, release of CO2 increases. So this is how, and you know that we have done in this, in the beginning of the chapter also, we have done that the plant have the stomata to breathe, to exchange the gases. Yes, tiny pores under the leaf, they are present, which helps in the intake of oxygen or carbon dioxide and exchange of carbon dioxide or oxygen. So these are the breathing organs. So we have finished the respiration process in animals and as well as in the plants. So now I am going to begin the next life process, that is transportation. This is the new topic for today. Transportation means sending the things from one area to another area. Okay, like we have done in the nutrition, the food is digested in the small intestine and through the villi, the nutrients are absorbed and passes to the blood. Okay, the same way we have done in the respiration, oxygen is breathed in and it is passed from the alveoli sac to the blood. So all together, all these important things, whether it is nutrients or oxygen, are transported from one system or one area to the other areas through the blood. Similarly, we have done in the nutrition, the excretion of the waste products is also done, like whatever is left over, like you can say that the urea and the unwanted components is passed to the blood. Through the blood only it is excreted out. Similarly, carbon dioxide is also passed by the body cell to the blood, and through the blood it comes to the lungs, and finally for the excretion it is ready. So human beings transportation involves three things. First is blood, second one is heart, third one is blood vessels. There are three things. Main component of the transport system is blood, heart and the blood vessels, and the transportation is done by the system that is called as circulatory system. Circulatory system composed of blood, heart, and these are the blood vessels. These three important components of the human circulatory system. You all are aware of these things, but we will do in the detail. First we take up the blood. Blood is the fluid which is carrying so many things. So when we will subdivide the components of the blood, it is mainly consist of, first one is the plasma, which is the liquid part of the blood, and the second which is present is the blood cells. There are three types of blood cells present in the blood, and the third thing is it also carries what? It also carries nutrients, hormones, enzymes, gases. All these things are present in the flowing through the blood or dissolved in the blood and passes from one area to another area. Now coming to plasma. First one is the plasma. We will first talk about the plasma. What is plasma? This is a transparent liquid in which all these things which has to be transported is dissolved, and in that plasma these cells are present. The first is the red blood cells, RBC. RBC is very important because it is containing a very important pigment that is called as hemoglobin. The blood cell is red in color due to the presence of hemoglobin. What is its role? And it is found in maximum number. It is very small sized and it is not having the nucleus. The human RBC does not have the nucleus. So that is why its lifespan is very less. So red blood cells function is to carry the oxygen and pass to the different cells through the blood. So that is why the amount of hemoglobin should be appropriate in us. If we are suffering from low level of hemoglobin, so our body, our cells, the red blood cells will have lower capacity to absorb the oxygen. So our body cells will not get that much enough oxygen what it requires. So what will happen? We will gradually be deficient of the energy, because just in the previous class we have studied that energy is only produced when when the appropriate amount of oxygen is present in the cell. They break down the food and energy is produced. So the people suffer from low level of hemoglobin. They are weaker in health. Second one is the white blood cell, WBC. One more thing, RBC is also called as erythrocytes. It is more in number. Second one is white blood cells, WBC. WBC is called as leukocytes. They are called as leukocytes, and they are that type of cells which helps to fight the infections or any diseases in our body. How they fight? Because they have the ability to produce antibodies against any antigen. Maybe some of you are confused between the terms antibody and antigen. Antigen means any foreign substance which is entering in our body system. So whenever any foreign substance, or you can say that any enemy which is not good for your body enters in our body system produces some kind of soldiers. They are called as lymphocytes. Okay, and who does that? These white blood cells does that, and those are called as antibodies. So for any foreign substance, soldiers are antibodies. Antigen is the foreign substance, antibodies is the soldiers. So these soldiers fight against this infection and protects us from any kind of infection. And the third one is the platelets. Platelets is called as thrombocytes. Thrombocytes, thrombocytes. What is its role? The thrombocytes has its role that whenever we have any cut or bruise, blood starts flowing. These thrombocytes releases a chemical called as thrombin and stops the flow of the blood there. So this helps in the blood clotting. You have seen that whenever there is a cut or you get hurt, blood starts flowing, and after some time the blood starts coagulating, becoming solidifying. So that is because of the presence of this cell that is called as platelets. Okay. Now what is the function of plasma? It transports the plasma transports oxygen, white oxygen and other important components. White blood cells kills the harmful microbes and protects our body. Platelets help in the clotting of blood and prevents the loss of the blood during any kind of injury. Now, we have done the main thing, that is the blood. We have done the composition of blood and each component functions we have done. Now we go to, I will do the heart in the next class because it needs a lot of explanation with the diagram. We have some other part of the human circulatory system, that is blood vessels, the tubes. In our body system, there are three types of tubes. First one is arteries, second one is veins, and the third one is capillaries. Remember, arteries always carry blood from the heart to the body parts, and generally they carry the pure blood. What is the meaning of pure blood? The blood which is enriched with the oxygen, the blood which is coming from the lungs filled with the oxygen. Arteries always carry the blood from the heart to the different body parts, because when the oxygen rich blood comes to the heart, heart pumps it and send to the different body cells. They are thick walled. Thick walled means their walls are thick because the oxygen rich blood which is coming from the heart is coming in a very high pressure. So to avoid the collapse of the arteries, they are made up of thick wall. They do not have walls. What is the meaning of this term? What is the meaning of valves? Valves is like a controlling switch. So if the valves help to prevent the backflow, but in the case of oxygen rich blood, they don't need, there is no harm in backflow, so that is why they don't have any walls. Once it is moving in the one, to avoid the movement of backflow of the blood, so there should be a unidirectional flow of the blood. So that is the role of the walls. So remember, arteries carry blood from heart to the body parts. They are thick walled and they do not have walls. Second one is the veins. Veins carry the blood from the body parts to the heart. So generally, which type of blood they carry? They carry impure blood. And from where? From the body parts to the heart. Okay. And they are thin walled and they have walls. Because impure blood, once it is carried from the body cells, it should not revert back to the body cells. It will be toxic because it is carrying the waste material. It should not go back to the cell. Third is the capillaries. They are very narrow blood vessels which connect the arteries, veins, and together. The exchange of food, water, oxygen, carbon dioxide is done between the blood and the cells through the capillaries. So they make the connection between the arteries and the veins, and it helps in the proper exchange of these things, important components like food, water, oxygen, CO2 from the body easily, and make the circulatory system perfect working model. Okay, so in the next class I am going to begin the heart. So till then, revise this much and get it thorough by watching these videos again and again, and please copy down these notes in your notebook because this is going to help you. Once you see the video, copy it and revise it once again. Till then, children, take good care of yourself, stay at home and safe. Thank you.